Okay, I can see we're live. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this panel. My name is Gwen. I'm head of investment here at Station F, and today we have a very special panel to talk about an important topic, which is diversity in tech, and in particular diversity in the investment world. We've been hearing a lot about it lately, a lot of issues around like diversity and inclusions in the VC world, and today we're just going to talk about this, and to do so, I'm with four exceptional people. Paula, maybe do you want to introduce yourself quickly, and we can do a roundtable?
Sure. My name is Paula Groves. I'm general partner of Impact X Capital. We are targeting a $100 million fund to invest in underrepresented entrepreneurs throughout Europe. I've been a private equity investor since 1992. I actually launched my own fund to focus on women and minority-led businesses that were technology-oriented. You've probably heard this before, but less than 1% of venture capital dollars go to Black entrepreneurs, less than 4% go to women. What you may not know is those numbers have not changed since 1992. So I'm very happy to be a part of a panel that is discussing how do we find a solution to this problem. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Thanks, Paula. Juliette?
Yeah, Juliette Souliman. I'm the co-founder of Ground Floor Ventures, which is a business angel syndicate focusing on European and US deal. We do super early stage tickets, so anything from 20K to 150K. Prior to that, I was an investor at Octopus Ventures, a VC investor, where I was doing seed, Series A, Series B investment, mainly focusing in fintech sectors.
Amazing, thanks, Juliette. Saul?
Hi everyone. My name's Saul. I've been, I guess, in this business as a founder, as an operator, and as an investor for about 25 years now, which means I'm going to be 50 in 2 weeks' time. I'm one of the founding partners of Local Globe, which is a seeds fund focused on an area we call New Palo Alto, which is a 4-hour train ride from where we are here in London. Basically means that Paris is the 21st arrondissement and part of this area. And I also worked with the folks at London Business School to launch today, actually, the Newton Venture Program, which is a program designed to train the next generation of VCs, LPs, and tech transfer officers. And the explicit objective of this program is that 50% of the program will be women and 50% of the program will come from a Black, Asian, and minority background, because I think we all agree that if venture is going to represent the society that we live in, it needs to represent the society that we live in.
Amazing. Thank you, Saul. And we lost your camera, by the way. We have a great view over London, though.
Okay, sorry. You can choose me or London.
Jessie?
I'm Jessie Draper. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and just to discuss what we're discussing. It's my favorite topic. I run Halogen Ventures. We invest in early stage female-founded consumer technologies in the U.S., and we have about 62 companies. I do like to say we have 3 male CEOs who I'm very proud of, and I do love men, but there has to be a woman in the founding team.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. Well, maybe my first question is directly related to everything that you just covered. It's on diversity and diversity in society in general. We see that a way to impose or go faster when it comes to diversity is to impose quotas, or maybe to put in place a structure of incentive to like push diversity forward. It's not the case in investment for kind of obvious reasons, but do you think we should get there and impose some quotas, or at least having incentives to invest in more diverse type of founders? Maybe JC, we can start with you.
Yes, I mean, I think we definitely need to start thinking about that. As a fund manager who invests in women, I actually recently wrote an article about this about 2 weeks ago called investing in women isn't an effing charity, is what it's called. And it really lays out the business case for investing in women and minorities. And I think that it's good business. So I think we need to start with that. It's not a charity. This is good for-profit business, better returns. Women in general raise half as much money and double the return. And they have new data that says they also exit a year earlier for a larger amount. And so, I think it's a good business. So I just want to start with that because that's the strongest argument. But yes, I think something needs to drastically change. You mentioned earlier, where is that at the LP level? And yes, I think our investors need to change. There's this sort of lockdown on fund of funds who invest in funds like mine, who've already allocated to, at least in the United States, to the large funds in Silicon Valley. And they just continue to allocate to those. And there's no room for, getting into new funds, especially gender-focused funds, which really, gender and minority-focused funds, which I think they for some reason fall under other buckets. So we end up raising, like, for example, I have 78 investors in this fund. And, I talked to a male GP who's just as qualified and I've had more returns than, and he's like bragging about how he has 10 investors. I'm like, wow, wouldn't that be a dream? But it's just, there's also the emerging managers programs, which are a real problem. Emerging managers programs say that they want to get to know you and they'll come in at fund 3 or 4. And I just always joke with them and say, great, I'm not going to need you at fund 3 or 4. I need you in fund 1 and 2. And so I think there needs to be something needs to change just in the overall ecosystem. And then I do think the majority of these, I know the majority of these fund of funds, endowments, and institutions that I speak to are all of the same demographic, same, typical age group, and same race of men. And it's like something has to change there. So I would love to say, that every major institutional LP has to have, whatever it may be, 50% women. Why not 51? Let's go for more.
Paula, I know, like with Impact Capital, like you've been through that, like you raise funds from LPs on the premise of focusing on underrepresented communities and funders, etc. How difficult was it to have this discussion with LPs?
Oh, it's extremely difficult. Jessie hit the nail on the head when she referred to the fact that, LPs are very risk averse. They only want to invest with people that they've invested with before, and they only want to invest in you after you've already established your fund. I would like to make the point that I think that the lack of investment in Black and female entrepreneurs is having long-term economic devastating consequences. And to your point about quotas, I did a study for the city of San Francisco a couple of years back, where they wanted to understand why there was a huge exodus of Black population out of the city of San Francisco, and they wanted to understand why. After doing a lot of digging, there was a direct correlation between when San Francisco used to allocate government contracts to Black entrepreneurs. They eliminated that program about 10 years prior to when I did the study. What happened was when those entrepreneurs were no longer receiving government contracts, and you could argue that that was a quota, when those, because the city of San Francisco said that a certain percentage of government contracts had to go to Black entrepreneurs. When they eliminated that program, the contracts were no longer allocated to Black entrepreneurs. Black entrepreneurs stopped receiving the contracts. These entrepreneurs were pillars of their communities. They were the cornerstone. And so when those companies went out of businesses, all of the Black-owned restaurants, all of the Black-owned hair salons, all of the Black-owned community infrastructure went away. These people no longer could provide for their families, and they had to move out of the city of San Francisco. So this is a specific example about how a quota system was absolutely providing Black economic opportunity, which was raising their community to all levels. And when they eliminated that quota, these Black communities went away. It was quite devastating to analyze and watch. So I'm absolutely a believer that quotas can take our entire society to the next level. Thank you.
So you've been in the business for like over 25 years. How have you seen it change over time, and where do you think it's going next, and how should it go there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as Paula said, I've seen very little change in the business over the last 20 to 25 years. I mean, I would say, and maybe we're fortunate, but many of our LPs actually are women, which I think, I really think it, I actually have found that at least the LP universe of our institutional investors, I'd say, I'm thinking at the top of my head, probably 50% of the LPs are women, and this is fund of funds, endowments, pension funds, etc. But definitely feel like in general the LP universe can be more representative. I think there's this sort of fundamental issue around data and benchmarking that if you don't measure it, you can't do anything about it. And one of the challenges that we've had as an organization is that you can establish benchmarks if benchmarks exist, but if benchmarks don't even exist, and I'm looking at you, France, where in France, as far as I understand it, the Constitution doesn't even allow for one to actually see what the black population is. It's very hard then to sort of benchmark. And I would say when we look at this, we're on the journey as a fund to now do self-reporting. I think, you want people to self-identify. You obviously need people to do that rather than impose an identification on them. We then want to be able to do that for the portfolio, but as soon as we start looking at that at a portfolio level, we can do it in the UK, but we can't benchmark it against France because there's no data in France. So, I mean, the way I would sort of think about it, and this is the way we've thought about Newton, is that, one should challenge yourself to meet and then beat the best available benchmark. So to Jesse's point, if it's a gender benchmark, 50% is not good enough. That's what you aim for, and then you beat it. If it's, black founders in London, it's not 3%, which is the national average for the black population in the UK. It's 13%, which is the black population in London. So I think you've always got to be, meeting and beating whatever benchmarks exist. But if the benchmark doesn't exist, I'm looking at you, France.
I got a point.
How do we? You said you wanted to do London.
I'm the stupid American who's just like, what's the data problem in France? Because I'm less familiar.
Maybe
you can't profile.
Or
Juliet, you want to talk about it? That data issue.
No, I mean you can't just you can't profile, because just the fact of profiling is considered racist or sexist, basically, and they try to kind of which is obviously hiding the issue. Yeah, definitely.
They're not allowed to collect the data.
Absolutely,
it's illegal.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It doesn't happen.
As much of the black population in France agrees with that. Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, it's controversial, right? I agree with all the points that Saul made, and obviously coming from the U.S., where we've been tracked since the beginning of time. But some argue that there's a higher, more accepting of the black population as a result of not segmenting them out and tracking them, especially if you look at the creative industries. People of black descent have moved and migrated towards France because they felt they had a higher comfort level of living there because they weren't being quote unquote targeted. So it's controversial, but I understand the points that are being made.
Juliette, maybe from a syndicate issue, from a business angel perspective, how do you approach that diversity discussion? And I'll throw in there another question that I see on the chat that I find very relevant about rolling fund. Rolling fund do you think they can help save the issue of having like younger and new types of managers arriving and launching themselves?
Yeah, I think I think you're spot on speaking about the crowd that currently are the VCs, right? And I think it's a big problem. I think it's fair to say that, in my opinion, venture capitalist is based on unfairness. And when I say unfairness, it's based on unfair access. Unfair access to capital is one thing, but also unfair access to deal flow. And it's a good unfairness system, right? It's your ability as a VC. A good VC is the VC that will be able to spot the best startup in the market before everybody else, at least at the early stage level. To be able to spot this outlier, you use your network. It's unfair advantage. You use your expertise, your knowledge. It's unfair access to information. Now, this unfair access comes from your network and your background. Now, the problem is when if everybody owes the exact same unfair access, the exact same unfair access to the Oxford alumni spin-off, the same unfair access of the Harvard or Stanford alumni, then it's all the same pool of talent that get spotted. My problem is when I see in the industry that they complain of not finding enough this pipeline problem of not having enough women or black-led founder, etc. I think it's pardon my French, but bullshit. Huh? Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. If Paul from Oxford, Jacques from Oxford, and Pierre from Oxford hire Victor from Oxford, they cannot complain that they cannot see anything else. They can't find women, or they can't find any non-Oxford amazing startup, right? It goes with this unfair access. You need to be comfortable that it's about this unfair game, and in that respect, you need to seek people that have different network and different background. At Ground Floor Ventures, I think I truly believe that the broader you broaden your horizon, because you partner with people with different access, different network, different experiences, you get the best deal. It's just how it goes.
I completely agree, Juliette. We really focus on access, and what we've found is, because we put out this, I call it the Batwoman signal, and we said we're looking for women in consumer tech companies. So one, people know exactly what we're looking for, but also because we went off of that traditional, sort of technology road MIT, Harvard, Stanford road, and said we're looking for something different. We have over 50% minority-led companies because we were looking for the best deals. And we also try to be super accessible. So what we see in the United States is a lot of the Andreessens and Sequoias, et cetera. They say, well, you need an introduction. I'm like, you're a venture capitalist. Like, not everybody knows a venture capitalist. Like, what? That's ridiculous. We try to be super accessible. You can pitch us on our site. I've taken pitches through Twitter, LinkedIn. I give out my email addresses on panels like this, Jessie@halogenvc.com. It's my real email. I'll type it in the thing. I think you are in a position of privilege as a venture capitalist, and you also might miss something if you don't give everyone the opportunity to get their business plan to you.
That's a big debate we see in the ecosystem right now. Like, as a VC, should you be very open? Because we see more and more funds, and usually the biggest funds that request an intro by either another founder, et cetera, meaning that, like, if you come from nowhere and you don't have like access to that ecosystem, there is no way you get in touch with VCs. Do you think it's a normal practice? Well, Jessie, I think you already replied, but isn't it the job of a VC to also handle deal flow and be able to manage, even if it's huge?
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. I have processes if anyone needs tips on how to get through deal flow, but we saw 5,000 deals last year, and that's because we were looking for women, and women are starting companies, and they're looking for someone who is focused on investing in that.
Yeah, no, I think Jesse's right on point. We need to break this norm that you have to have an introduction and you have to have a warm introduction, or you have to be known by the VC network in order to get an opportunity to pitch your business plan. Because not everybody got to go to Stanford, or got to row on the crew team, or got to play baseball with these other male counterparts. It's almost like if you weren't in the locker rooms with these guys, then you don't get an opportunity to get access to VC funding. And that's just crazy. That's just crazy. At ImpactX, we also take a very data analytical approach to deal flow. We want to see every single underrepresented entrepreneur in Europe. We don't care what your pedigree is. We don't care what your resume looks like. We don't care if you happen to know if you're the son of Boris Yeltsin or Boris Yeltsin. My apologies. You're the son of the prime minister. You know, we just want to see your business plan and your idea. And if you have access to the resources that you need to make the company grow and thrive. And we actually want to contribute our resources to you. We have a network of, 30 founding members that we can tap into to introduce you to customer relationships or to help you analyze your technology platform. So we want to help build that company with you. We're not going to have these requirements and pedigrees so that you can just get in the door.
Maybe a question as well that we see as well at Station F, because we have a program, the Fighters program, that is dedicated to underrepresented funders, so people with like various background that don't have the traditional business schools, etc., and kind of the codes of the ecosystem. How do you think we should approach? Because when it comes to like diversity and minorities and having those funders coming from like diverse background, should we go about like helping them also get there? Because like to have, at the end of the day, the VC world is also investing in the best companies. So no matter where they're from, they need to be amazing companies, because like that's the investment world and how it works. How should we get about like helping them as well, giving them more tools and opportunities? Maybe Juliette?
Yeah, I think speaking to VC, unfortunately, it's kind of a new language to learn. You need to learn how to charm a VC. And thanks God, we live in a digital age where, I mean, the amount of resources available of how to pitch to a VC, how to build an amazing pitch deck, how to track the right KPIs depending on the right business models that you're doing. Those are like a gold mine, because and I think you shouldn't take this lightly. That's one thing. And I think the other thing, I'll tell you, one of my best deal as a business angel is actually an angel that reverted the table, and she said, you know what? I won't accept anybody on my cap table that don't share the same kind of, I mean, not value, but kind of a trust in diversity as I do. Why would I give 20% of my company to all white male partners that obviously don't say believe in female leadership? No. And she refused quite a lot of deals like that. I mean, that push, I think, a bunch of VC to be like, ooh, maybe we're missing something. I think the entrepreneur needs to also remember, I mean, it's easy to say, but if you have a really, really hot deal, it's a competitive deal, and you all the key to make it competitive, and you need to also team up with the people that are vibing with you, I think.
I mean, just one thing I would say, and it kind of echoes the point that Juliette made, and it doesn't mean that we're anywhere close to being there. But when I look back to, say, 2003, 2005 in Europe, there wasn't even TechCrunch. There was no YC. We started Seed Camp in 2007 because there was, like, if you were a Romanian entrepreneur or an entrepreneur from Ljubljana, no one had even heard of where Ljubljana was. So this was 13 years ago, and I think we've made a huge leap forward. But that was a lot about regional access. I think the exciting thing in the last 5 years is about, gender diversity, ethnic diversity, socioeconomic diversity, and, just opening the funnel, as everyone said, Station F, incubators, co-working spaces. While we shouldn't push ourselves to stop doing more, we should also, recognize how far we've come in the last 10 to 15 years. And likely in the next 15 to 20 years, because of the network effect of all of this, and now with online platforms like rolling fund closes and angel lists and crowdfunding, and ICOs, I'd say we've got a bright future, but it doesn't mean we should stop holding ourselves accountable, that's for sure.
Thank you for this. Well, guys, I could talk about this all night with you, that's for sure. However, we're already on time, we're even over time, but I just want to quickly thank you all for taking the time to chat with us today and to chat with the people online. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day wherever you are in the world, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.